Well, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. And I'm so pleased that you've decided to tune in because today I have something very, very special. I have had the honor and the privilege of getting to meet our guest today, Dr. Karwanna Dyson Irving. Karwanna, I know that we're talking today about essentially unlocking government contracts and how to create generational wealth. So let's jump into about that and give the audience a little background about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Karwanna Dyson Irving. I'm a government contracts expert. And what I do is I help small business entrepreneurs actually create generational wealth with their business by teaching them the navigation through government contracts. So, in case you did not know, of course, government contracting is the number one best kept secret. It's the number one best way to quickly scale your business, without working harder and without burning yourself out and without chasing a bunch of customers. Like literally, one good government contract could be worth 10 years worth of revenue for you. And so because of that, like I am, more than honored to be in a position to educate entrepreneurs on how they can make it work for them. So that's what I do in a nutshell. And yeah.
Rocking. So so that's why when you first said that, when we were initially chatting, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to tell people, I've got to get the message out. But the thing is that it kind of seems a little far-fetched for a sort of even a smaller company, a single person business, or a smaller business to actually pull one of these government contracts off.
Yeah.
Do you need a lot of experience, or kind of give us the background on that?
Sure. Yeah, so let me just give you a little bit of information about like how it all works and why it actually can work for even the smallest mompreneur or dadpreneur or just a solopreneur. Like you can actually make it work for you. So and if you've ever watched the movie War Dogs, like literally they give you a lot of secrets in that movie because it's really just about government contracts. But according to the Small Business Act of America, the U.S. government is actually obligated and mandated to spend a certain percentage of all their contractual spending with small businesses. And according to the Small Business Association, the definition of a small business is any company that has under 500 employees, right? So when you think about small businesses as we define them generally, a lot of times these are people who don't even have employees. Maybe you're just a solopreneur, maybe you have 2 or 3 employees, or maybe you have under 10. So where does that put us, right, as really micro small businesses? And so it puts us in a position to where there are set aside opportunities of like trillions of dollars in funding opportunities with the government that we can actually participate in so that we can actually continue to grow and become the employers of tomorrow. And so in 2020, the U.S. federal government alone, just to give you a bigger, greater idea of what that looks like for you, in 2020, the U.S. federal government alone actually spent over $10 trillion on business products and services, right? And of that, 23% and upwards of 23% of that was obligated to be spent with small businesses. So that's over $2.3 trillion that was in a pool of money that only those micro small businesses can participate in, which is amazing.
What?
Yes.
That is a heap big wad of cash there. $2.3 trillion. Is that what I heard you say?
2.3 trillion that was on the table. Now, mind you, like we all know that there's 3 levels of government, right? There's the federal government, there's the state government, and there's your local city and county, right? So the numbers that I just shared with you, that's just money that's on the table for you on the federal level. So just imagine how much more when you add the state obligations and the city, local, and county obligations. That's a lot of money to participate in, right? So just imagine, like, if you are a small business entrepreneur who's probably making 100,000, maybe 200,000, like literally you can 10x or more your business just by getting one big government contract, and you won't even splash the pool of all the opportunities that are out there. So This is like the biggest kept secret. And I think every small business entrepreneur needs to know about it and also needs to take action on the knowledge of doing business with the government.
For sure. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to drill down and ask you about, Karwanna, because the opportunity does seem almost too good to be true, especially when I think to myself, I serve creatives. I serve authors and publishers and course creators. I sell courses myself and books. So my question for myself and on behalf of the audience here is, can this work for somebody like me and the folks watching?
Absolutely. So like literally the government, first of all, like they buy everything that we as individual people consume, right? Because you got to think about the government as just a building full of bodies of individual people. So they consume water, food, lights, electricity, electronics, like they consume and they utilize everything that we utilize. So when you break it down and look at it from that particular perspective, like you're literally can sell just about anything to the government. And so like, for me, I'm a regular person. I'm also a coach, a consultant. I coach entrepreneurs as well. And so for me, like I would say it's probably been about 17 years ago when I first came into this knowledge right here that literally changed my life. And so I'm going to use my own story as an example to see how accessible it is, even if you don't believe that you're qualified to land, such a giant client like the government, right? So, a few years ago, I was actually one of those small businesses that was chasing customers, trying to figure it out. I was barely making ends meet, but I was working really hard in the process of trying to get the customer so I can try to make some money to try to live, right? And so you find yourself in a rat race a lot of times, overworked, underpaid, all that stuff. And so for me, like when I first learned about government contracts, I was probably working about 50 to 60 hours a week on my business, chasing customers, but I was bringing home probably barely $30,000 a year or less, right? So I was below the poverty line. And so like literally when I actually learned about government contracts, the first contract that I had received for 28 days of work, I generated $70,000 as a photographer for the government. So, and that's photography services, just taking point and click pictures, right? And so if I can do it, anybody can do it. The government buys everything. You can sell water and get like a $500,000 contract just selling water. Like they have contracts for just goats eating grass on the side of the road. So if you have like a farm, you have goats, like you could actually get a government contract to let your goats eat grass off the side of the road, right? Isn't it? It's just crazy. Like literally, I have clients that sell wigs to the government, and so
wigs.
Yeah, if you can sell it to a person, you can sell it to the government. Absolutely.
That's amazing. And let me ask you, do they require any kind of special credentials to do this?
Yeah, no, not at all. So the only thing that's required is that you legitimately have a business, right? So as long as you have a legally formed business, you can actually do business with the government. That's really all it is. And then like another thing, the reason why this works so well is because legally the government cannot buy or source their own products or services. So they have to go externally to a business to bring in the products and bring in the service providers, right? And so everything that they do has to be outsourced, right? So, and because of the Small Business Act of America says a part of that has to be also outsourced to these diverse groups that's been socially economic disadvantages, hence small business entrepreneurs, right? That means that they have to spend the money with you, right? So it's just like, it's a no-brainer. It's a fail-proof business model. And also it's a very lucrative business model where you actually can work less and make more money. So smart.
Well, hey, you've definitely got my attention. When you say that, let's chat about that for just a second.
Sure.
Just how lucrative are we talking?
Okay. I love the question, right? Because when you think about lucrative to a small, I mean, that's like subjective. It could be, one person may think $100,000 is lucrative. Somebody else may think $50,000 is lucrative. But for me, if you can spend 1 hour with the government providing your maybe your expertise on a subject matter and get paid $26,000 for the hour. Where else can you find a client where you can charge them $26,000 for the hour? I don't know where that exists. And so for me, that's very lucrative. And so when you take that 1 hour and then you say, well, I'm going to do an hour a month for 12, then that's 26,000 times 12. That's like a six-figure contract, or a little bit more than a six-figure contract, to do 12 hours out the year. Like, this is like, it's crazy.
It's nuts. So, and we're talking like doing workshops, maybe?
Well, okay,
that kind of thing?
To give you an example, so one of my clients, she actually teaches diversity, equity, and inclusion. So she did an hour for $26,000, and now she has multiple days throughout the year where she just goes in for an hour and teaches that, right? And so it could be there's a client of mine, well, she's more a colleague who just landed a $1.6 million contract teaching leadership and development. I say anybody can teach leadership and development, because if you have children, you've already done some leadership and development, right? So what are you teaching people? To wake up? Or wake up on time, make sure you have your morning coffee, show up and be at your best, that's leadership and development. So definitely, it's just ridiculous, like the type of opportunities that I see that are out there. I wish I had a sticky note, but I literally saw a contract. It was like $250,000, $250,000 for some sticky notes. Yes.
Wow. So in other words, if you're, because we have a lot of nonfiction authors that follow me, and if you're a nonfiction author with a subject matter expertise, you could potentially take that expertise, maybe not sell the book, but actually roll it into like a day workshop or something. Absolutely. And sell that, right?
Absolutely. So I have another client who's really great at doing PowerPoints. And so that's what she got contracts with the federal government, actually training government employees how to actually prepare and develop PowerPoints. So yes, I mean, so if you're an expert in any subject matter, maybe you're good at showing people how to market or how to sell. Like, all of these are skill sets that you actually can bottle up and sell to the government, because they're looking for not only skills, but just your services in general, and as various products that you would not even think that you can sell that product to the government. You absolutely can do it. And everybody knows where to go get like a glass or a bottle top, or these are the things that I see, like coffee cup holders, like where to get that stuff from. So if you can sell it to the government, why not, and land lucrative contracts versus chasing 1,000 individual customers, hoping that they'll see the value in what you do, rather than as the government saying, hey, I already have this money for you. Can you fulfill on this contract? It's like, that's an easy yes all day. Yes.
All day. Yes. My gosh. And not only that, if I heard you right at the beginning of our chat here, they're actually obligated. They're obligated to spend that money with a business like ours, right? The smaller businesses, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So let's chat about that for just a second. Starting from zero, like if somebody jumped into this today, kind of give us how long it might take to actually get paid on a government contract.
Yeah, so like literally, so we've all been told that traditionally it'll take 2 to 5 years to grow a business. Of course, we've bought into a lot of myths that are really just strictly untrue. And the reason why they appear to be true, because that's all we knew. We were told this information that you have to have venture capital, you have to, get startup capital, you have to do all these things. Well, one of the things that we were not told, that really successful businesses know the secret to, like Amazon, they have contracts with the government. Elon Musk has a contract with the government. Like all these companies, Nikon camera, these people have government contracts. Even Uber has a contract with the government. And so when you actually do business with the government, even if you started your business today, it will not take you 2 to 5 years. Like literally in 30, 60, 90 days, you could have secured your first highly lucrative 6-figure or even multi-million-dollar contract, depending on the services and the term of the contract, within that time frame. And how it works, let's just say, ideally, generally, most invoices or contracts are paid out on a 30-day net. So you do some work, you invoice, it takes 30 days for you to get paid. Depending on the agency that you're working with, you can get paid much sooner. But ideally, those contracts are like 2 to 5 years in term, which gives you consistent sustainability. And so for when it's like during the times where there's like a pandemic or some recession or something happening, you have that income locked in, right? So that's like security, financial security. You know that the government is always spending money. And even during recessions, even during pandemics, even during these times where it seems like there's going to be a shift in the economy or some economic downfall, guess what they're doing? They're writing bills to spend more money to solve the problem, and they're looking for small businesses to actually provide the solution to those problems.
It actually does blow my mind, which is the reason why I wanted to chat with you so that we can get this message out to more small business folks. And that actually brings to mind another question. What if you are, or is there additional money set aside if you are a woman owned or a veteran owned or minority owned business? Is there even additional money on top of what's already available?
Absolutely. So it definitely gets more insane when you want to like narrow it down or scope it down to, well, what type of small businesses, right? So there are various socioeconomic disadvantaged groups that's been traditionally marginalized, like women in business or minorities, and veterans. Like, how many times do you see a veteran who served, who's been traumatized by being in war and all that stuff, and they come out and then you find them homeless on the street? Well, the little known secret that they don't even know is that the government has set aside funding, or not funding, but contracting opportunities specifically for veterans who have businesses. And so you don't have to be homeless. You don't have to be on the street. Like, you don't have to be asking for handouts or anything if you understand how it really works. And so, yes, outside of this pool of money that's available for small businesses in general, there are micro pools of money that's specifically set aside for those socioeconomic disadvantaged groups that will bring even more value to you as a socioeconomic person that identifies with any of those groups. So yes, there are pools of money that only women-owned businesses can participate in, that only minority businesses can participate in, on top of the general small business pool as well. So there are so many lucrative opportunities and so many ways for you to really grow and expand and scale your business much faster. And I'm going to tell you, like, when I first really started understanding the bigger picture of government contracts, yes, my first contract was highly lucrative, but then I also discovered that I started landing contracts simultaneously, which helped my business to like just grow exponentially over a very short period of time, right? But then I saw the ideal concept for me was like, oh, this is a great way to create generational wealth, because when you're landing these lucrative contracts, especially when you're landing them simultaneously, you actually get into what I call a cash influx, right? The cash influx where you have so much money, maybe you don't have enough time in your lifetime to spend it. And so now you're going to start thinking about, well, what can I do to continue to grow this wealth now that I have it and the government is funding me, at this capacity? And then what can I do to protect my money to actually pass it down for generational wealth purposes, right? And so this is a great way to pass down real wealth for generations to come.
Man, this is so great. And I know that some people listening right now, they're thinking that their business or product or service really wouldn't qualify for a government contract. As a matter of fact, we have Andres on here right now. He's asking, hey, I sell e-bikes. Would this work for me? Can you give us maybe some crazy off the wall examples of government contracts that might be surprising to some folks?
I always say that because a lot of times people, even though like I'm like the government literally buys everything, like I can say that a million times, and the question will still pop up that says, well, what about this service or what about this product, right? And the litmus test for me is if you've sold it to an individual person, that means there's value in it and the government will buy it too, right? So when it comes to things like e-bikes, right, you got to think about like e-bike is basically, this is like it's for biking, it's like a health thing, right? So there's so many opportunities for you to sell things like biking or even biking classes or cycling classes when it comes to like these health contracts, right? So yeah, you can sell it to the government. They buy literally everything. Like I've seen doggy treats, contracts for doggy treats and snack. And so it's just like, so I have clients that are, or friends or colleagues that are also like, they're musicians and ministers of music, and they're DJs and stuff like that. And I did some research and I saw that the government has multiple six-figure contracts for musician services, for church choir services, like for like literally for DJs. Like you can actually get a subcontract as a DJ for event planning contracts, you know, for those who are in the event planning or communications space. Like there's so many different layers to government contracting. It's just like, if you believe you can sell like what you're selling, somebody is willing to buy, then absolutely, I say there's a way to position it to sell it to the government as well.
Yeah, and for Andres, I just think about all the green initiatives. You think about e-bikes, that's a green initiative.
You just read my mind, because I was just like, yeah, all the green initiatives, and you know, they're trying to get people to switch over to like electronic vehicles, and then also take public transportation more, so we can get all of these, you know, the gas fueled cars and vehicles off the street. Like biking is a solution, right, to saving our environment too. So there's definitely opportunities for you to get a contract specifically because of these initiatives. And these initiatives are not just like local, like this is an international thing, right? Or nationally, like you can actually expand your business from where you are and connect with other companies out in other states that you manage the contract, but now you've grown your team by partnering with other companies, and now you've expanded from where you are in one state or one city to like 50 across 50 cities. You have, you know, government contracting contracts, right, secured across all 50 states because of the strategic partnerships that you can develop in this particular space.
Yeah, thank you, Karwanna. And you know, here's another great question, because I know that for the community that follows me, and this is like a personal interest as well. We have a LinkedIn user asking, can I teach workshops using Zoom selling to the government?
Absolutely. So, you know, so one of the Zoom is like, actually, first of all, I want to say Zoom has a government contract too, right? So, so during the pandemic, when everybody was like shut in their homes and agencies closed down their doors, everybody had no choice but to go online virtually to do, you know, whatever type of business they were doing virtually, right? And so Zoom actually went through the roof during that period. And because of that, now that we're like post-pandemic, a lot of the new business models is to continue, you know, doing these virtual events and trying to access, you know, trying to find ways to actually continue using technology, modern technology, and virtual PowerPoints and things of that nature. And so, yes, you can teach these workshops across agencies. You can actually teach how to actually appear on Zoom, or Zoom ethics. Like you can teach things like that, or how to get the most out of the software, right? And so there's definitely ways for you to land even a contract in teaching Zoom. Like one of the contracts that I had during the pandemic was actually doing a ribbon cutting ceremony virtually using Zoom and some imported video.
You are an inspiration, Karwanna. I gotta say, this is so great. Okay, so I think we've covered those questions, but let me ask you this. I know that you've worked with a lot of folks in getting their businesses off the ground with government contract. Can you give us some like common hurdles that that you've seen and help people overcome in getting their first government contract?
Yeah, definitely. I say that there's a few different hurdles that you would have to overcome. One of the biggest hurdles is just believing that you're worthy to be able to land a client, such as the number one biggest purchaser of business products and services in the world, as the government, as your own client, right? So one of the biggest things that holds most small businesses back is like not believing that this is something that can happen for them, right? But also just not understanding their full value, right? So when it comes to like, there's 3 levels to business, right? So when it comes to The three levels of business, there's the B2C, which most people operate in the B2C. That's business to consumer business model, right? This means that you have individual customers that you do business with that are just regular everyday people, right? And so at the B2C level, most small business entrepreneurs that I found during my research are stuck between zero, because believe it or not, some people have a business and they make zero, to about 80,000, maybe like 100,000, right? If you're working really hard. But with that particular business model, is your time is anchored, your money is anchored in your time. So it's like you have limited ability to really grow and scale operating at that level of business, right? So then there's B2C. This is the second level, business to corporations, right? So I'm sorry, B2B. B2B, business to business, right? So at this particular level, this is where you kind of break through the $80,000 to about maybe 200,000, right? That threshold. Of course, you have better quality clients, but still your time is still a little bit anchored into the money, right? Your money is anchored into its time. So it's still really hard to grow and scale and build capacity at that level. The highest level of value that you can bring to your business is operating at the B2P. B2P stands for business to premium client. And being that the government is the number one biggest purchaser, biggest client that you can ever land, because they print the money, right? They have all the money. This is where you actually break through $250,000 to multiple millions in every single year, right? And so one of the biggest hurdles is like getting people to understand that, like to understand. You have to be a premium entrepreneur first in order for you to attract a premium client like the government. So what do I mean by that? That means you have to have all of your ducks in a row. You have to have all your legal documents. You have to have all your taxes done. You have to have your EIN, like all of your documentation for your business in order to do business with this government, right? So it's not, you can't be like an under the table person or hiding one hand. Like you really have to just be like, hey, I'm going all in, transparent, as I am. And then most people think that you have to already be, making six figures or already be successful. You can be making $1 a year in your business and you can still land the government as your client.
What you're really saying is you just got to be legit. You got to be legit.
You got to be legit. You got to be legit. And then I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk, because transitioning from or adding the B2G, business to government business model, there's definitely a lot of growth and development that can happen along the way. There is some, red tape and stuff that you have to get through. Like you have to be the person that's willing to go through that transition in order to win. And so you have to be willing to kind of grow up.
Give us some flavors behind that sort of that journey. Take us through that journey for a small, maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 business person business.
The journey to actually win.
Yeah, to actually get your business ready to get government contracts.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's that like?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically this can be done in 4 phases. And within these 4 phases, there's like micro phases, but those are the things that you can actually get through, right? But ideally, these are the 4 steps to actually pitching and winning government contracts. And I talk about this a lot in my book that's titled "Don't Duck the Government, They've Got Your Money." It's really all about how you can make millions pitching and winning government contracts. So the first step is to get your business foundation solid, right? So there's a checklist. Of course, I'll make sure that your audience and viewers get access to my free checklist that shows you what you need to have in order to have a solid foundation, so that the government will say yes. You can get their attention. They will be attracted to you as a premium entrepreneur, right? So once you have a business foundation set, then there are certifications that you can get, right? So those certifications actually officially represents you as a woman-owned business, minority business, veteran-owned business, even a micro local business or whatever. So what this does is you don't have to have certifications to do business with the government, but these certifications gives you so much leverage. So you definitely want to have them, right? It's like having your fast pass. So if you've ever been to like Disney World or whatever, usually they have this upgrade version of the park pass, where you can actually skip the line, right? So those certifications basically like your golden ticket to skip the line, so that you don't have to compete with so many different people, right? And then the step 3 is like you have to market yourself to the government. They have to know who you are, what you do, what value you're bringing to the table, and what solution are you providing to solve the problem, right? So when you put yourself in position as a business entrepreneur, as a problem solver, there's opportunities all the time, right? And then the 4th step is to respond to the proposal opportunities, right? They have them all the time, and all you have to do is just show up. They're basically saying, what woman-owned business wants this $2 million contract to come teach us leadership and development? What they want you to do is say, hey, I'm the woman-owned business. I have my woman-owned certification, and I can teach you leadership and development. Here's how much I would charge you from your $2 million budget, right? Or whatever. Right. So you got to respond. Yeah.
Right. So, but what I'm hearing you say is that these are most of the same steps you would have to take anyway to get just one client, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You have to do all that, or almost all of that anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well do it to get a major client, right?
Yeah.
A life-changing client.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. So let me ask you this. How long? And I think we kind of went over this a little earlier. How long is the sales cycle from, say, proposal to getting actual, a deposit in your bank account?
Yeah. So it kind of varies, right? It'll just kind of vary depending on the opportunities that are there. But typically, if you get awarded a contract, usually there's like a notice to proceed, a date where you actually start the work. And that could be like within 30 days. It could be like starting to work tomorrow after you sign. So it just kind of depends. And then once you do the work, then you invoice for it. Then it takes like 30 days. So it's really not a long cycle. So it just kind of varies. It depends on the opportunity. Like literally there was one of my clients, and this doesn't happen all the time. And this is like a rare situation, but one of my clients actually within 3 weeks, he landed and secured his first contract and actually had the check by week 4. So that's like, that's a very rare scenario that it can happen as fast as that. But typically it just kind of depends, right? So there's no real solid answer. It's going to be a different pathway, a different journey and experience for different entrepreneurs, and depending on the opportunities that are out there.
So, and that's the other thing, as some folks listening and watching know, I am a lawyer, although I'm mostly an entrepreneur, but I still do have a law license. And whenever I deal with the U.S. federal government, as a lawyer from a legal standpoint, I'm very, very, very careful. It's kind of scary to perhaps deal with the federal government. What do you say to that? How do you respond to that?
It seems like it's a scary thing because you're dealing with the feds, right? You're like, or the state or whoever. It seems like it's intimidating a little bit, right? If you look at it from that perspective, but really it's just a feeling, right? It's a feeling. Where's that feeling coming from? Is it coming from past trauma, past experiences, or things that you've seen on TV, right? It's just all a feeling, because at the end of the day, on the other side of that contract is a person who works for the government. These are people these are mothers, fathers, wives, husbands. They're people, right? So it's not like they're some alien, right? These are actual people who actually work for the government that's securing or procuring contracting opportunities with small business owners. So really, when you look at it from the perspective of like people to people, it's just like one to many people, basically. So instead of a one person to one person type of exchange or value exchange, it's one person to a body of a bunch of people in that building, right? So that's where the lucrative contracting concept come into, because you're serving one to many. But also you got to think about, these are people, like these are everyday people. It's nobody to be afraid of as well.
Yeah, so exactly, and when it comes down to it, we're all people, right?
Right.
And that's the other question that I have for you is it possible to do more than just one contract at a time?
Absolutely, yeah. And I actually highly recommend that you do. I call it contract stacking. So it's a concept that I developed called contract stacking, right? You actually can have multiple contracts simultaneously. In fact, when I learned that I could do that, I had multiple contracts simultaneously. And in one specific year, I think this was like during the pandemic 2019. Most recently, I was managing like 12 contracts simultaneously. So every single month it was like multiple six figures that I was invoicing to the government. So there's literally no limit. And the great thing about that, having no limit, no cap, right? There's no ceiling, right? You actually can leverage the government contracting concept to secure your $1 million and let that be your baseline, but there is no cap. But when you have to also be willing to grow and expand by team building, right? It's called shared economics, right? You're not going to be able to grow exponentially to multiple six figures a month by yourself. You have to have a team. And so as you begin to build your team and build your capacity and create partnerships, like the opportunities out there are limitless. But yes, absolutely. I also always recommend that you have multiple contracts simultaneously.
And on the other side of that coin, though, Karwanna, you could also, or can you also do quite well, even if you do just want to be a solopreneur?
Yeah, you can do very well, even if you are a solopreneur. But I would say, like, because I was a solopreneur when I first got started. But then, like,
Yeah.
at some point, when you're doing great work, they're gonna want to give you more work and then more work and more contracts. And so it's just like at some point, you're like, I don't want to like anchor all my time on not only just getting a contract and managing a contract. Now I have to go fulfill it too. And then you find yourself like really, really working really, really hard. So it's better for you to eventually graduate to actually building a team so that you have someone, or maybe that's you, managing getting more contracts, and then you have a field of people that's actually doing the fulfillment part.
So yeah, thank you for that. And that's kind of what I was hoping you would say. And the other idea that just popped into my brain is we know we've talked about set asides for minority owned, for women owned, for veteran owned businesses, but are there also set asides for sort of location dependent
Yes,
contracts? Like if you're
absolutely.
in a
Yep.
lower like a
Certain.
socially economic
Yep.
depressed area and your
Yep.
business is based there, can
Absolutely.
you get
Absolutely.
more?
So
Talk
yeah,
about
so
that.
there's definitely a lot of different set aside opportunities. Like it's called hub zone. These are historically utilized areas, like regions or zones, that you can actually, if your business is located in that zip code, you can actually get contracts that are specifically for businesses that are in that region. There are like set aside contracts specifically for businesses that are in a particular city or region as well. So you just have to get city or region certified in that area to participate in those set asides. So yeah, and then there's also set aside specifically for Native American people who are Native Americans, or for LGBT groups. Like if you identify as an LGBT group and you're a part of that community, you can actually get certified and participate in those particular set aside contracts that are specifically for that socioeconomic disadvantaged group as well. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities that are out there. There's a lot of different set asides that you could participate in as well. Literally, if you just make the decision to do this, like it does not take you a whole year. It doesn't even take you 6 months to start landing lucrative contracts. Like you can do that within a 90-day period, as long as you understand how to make it work for you.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about certifications. How difficult are these certifications to get?
Well, I think it's all relative, subjective, right? So the level of difficulty just kind of depends on how organized you are. But it's as long as you have that foundation, right? Like your taxes, your EIN, your articles of incorporation, or if you're a sole proprietor, your fictitious business name filing. There's some documents that you have to have. That makes it easy when you're organized with those documents to actually process your certification application. Now, the applications are rigorous, like it's a lot of questions on there. So this is the reason why, like one of my coaches, his name is Myron, and he talks about like the be do have success principle. Like you got to become the person who's willing to do that work so that you can actually get the results of doing the work, right? And so for me, it's just like, if you're not willing to get your documents in order, then this is probably not going to be for you, right? So, but if you're the type of person that's like, oh, that's all I need to do is do this. Okay, let me go do it. Then actually on the other side is the opportunity to quickly scale your business, like literally one contract in 10x where you are right now or more, right? And so, yeah, so hopefully that answers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about leveraging your opportunities. Really, it's instead of selling to one, really you're kind of selling to 100 million with one of these types of deals. And that's really what I love about the approach and what you've shared here today. That the fact that you, as a sole proprietor, as a single member LLC, or whatever like legitimate business entity that you're in, you can take the steps necessary to market your services, get the contracts, and it's the same sort of effort that you would have to do to sell maybe one client, but here you're selling essentially a mega can't get any better client, right? That's what I absolutely love about that.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that like sometimes I watch, I love watching movies, right? So in addition to the movie War Dogs, which is really based on a real story. Have you saw that movie? It was with Jonah. So I recommend, if you haven't seen it, just watch it. So anyway, it's about two young 20-year-olds who discovered the Small Business Act of America and government contracts and how it works. And actually, they had no experience. They went out and landed a $300 million contract selling war weapons to the government. Like they had absolutely no experience, but all they did was became the person who did the paperwork and then leveraged the Small Business Act of America and actually won that contract. And they were still 50 million. They came in $50 million lower than the highest bid, right? And so you have to watch that movie. Another like shocking, like, because I believe like, and sometimes in movies they give you hints and secrets, like they reveal secrets of things that's real, right? And so like in one of the movies, I think it was a Marvel film about Captain America, and he was sitting down getting ready to lose his government contract. Captain America has a government contract. They talk about it in the film. It's crazy, right? So, and a lot of these mega films, like the film companies, like Disney, Marvel, like they actually, like any film that has war or some type of army or navy representing them, they have a government contract for the military. Yes. From the military, they have, from the Department of Defense, they have a government contract as a partner.
Are you saying like they're getting paid to like promote the army? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
In the movies, yes.
No kidding. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
By the way, we have some great questions from let's see, from Susan and Barbary, who are asking, are there contracts for, or like sort of, or special set-asides for disabled adults or disabled based businesses? Can we speak to that?
So there are specifically set aside contracts for service disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, but there's also a certification that you can get if you're a disabled person who has a business. So there are set aside contracts for disabled business owners as well. So yes. Awesome.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat and educate my community about this. As I said, when I first got to chat with you and heard what you were doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to bring this and get this message delivered clearly to more people. So how can you tell folks how to get more help for you? And I think we set that up at danielhallwebinars.com/contract, I believe.
So I have a 5-day challenge where I actually walk people through the pre-qualifications part. And so when it comes to like the documents that you have to have, how much the government spends, like how to really position yourself, I walk you through that process over a 5-day period. So if you go to danielhallwebinars.com/contracts, you can get registered for my upcoming 5-day challenge where I'm going to help you get pre-qualified as a government contractor.
Awesome. And then also, can we put on that page, you'd mentioned a checklist a little earlier, or how could they get that
checklist? So you can actually add it in your show notes, or for anyone that registered to join you here, you can email it out to them, but I'm going to send it directly to you, and then you'll have access and you'll be able to just share it out to your group.
So I'll get an email out with it as soon as you get it for me, and I'll get it out to all of you, and I'll also put it in the description. So if you're watching this on YouTube or one of the other platforms, I will make sure that it's linked below as well. So any final words of wisdom for us here, Karwanna, as we close?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the quotes for me that one of my favorite thought leaders had a quote says, if you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to help them build theirs. For me, that just resonated so deeply that government contracts allowed me to not only build my dreams, but to live my dreams out in reality. So I just want to encourage you all to, if you have a dream deferred, if you have a dream to become the first generation wealth creator, or maybe to become, a millionaire, or if you're already a millionaire, you want to become a multi-millionaire, you can actually leverage the government contracting concept to actually help you live out those dreams. And so I would say, live life on purpose and not by default. Continue to live your dreams. Join us as we continue to help you throughout that journey at danielhallwebinars.com/contracts. And we're going to help you leverage the government contracting concept to live out your dreams and create wealth for yourself and your family.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karwanna. I really, really appreciate you doing all the legwork to put all this information together, and in your mission to help folks like I know you've been doing for the last 5+ years. So bless you. I really appreciate that. And for anyone that's here live with us, I did put that link into the chat, danielhallwebinars.com/contract. That's singular. That will take you to the challenge. You have an upcoming challenge, and probably in the future, if you're watching this later, there'll be another one after that. So you can make sure to check that out, and then also be on the lookout for the checklist as well. So with that, thank you, Karwanna. Thanks to all of you. Hey, go be the blessing and go get yourself not just one, but many government contracts.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.